standing still, so to speak. And if that's the case, it's going to become more and more deadened, so to speak. The spiritual will be harder to attain. It will be harder for people to manage a thrust that has to do with evolutionary purpose. We could go backwards, and that could happen in any number of ways. That could be nuclear war. That could be an asteroid hits the planet. It could be do-over. You know what I mean? We could, be looking at the end of civilization as we know it, and it all has to start again. It could also be what I was shown many, many years ago was a time that is coming in the next 10 to 15 years now. I had this in the early 90s. I was given the exact dates, but what I was shown was we could be looking at a very serious world conflict, the outcome of which would be planet determinative. It would either be going towards darkness or towards light. And very, very serious times ahead of us. We had a lot of help coming in about 10 years ago from the Pleiadians and some other civilizations. They've had to pull back because there is a lot of clatter, I guess I would say, just, the chatter of the planet, the intemperance of the thoughts of humankind. It's very difficult for a higher program, a higher purpose to actually emerge into the consciousness of humanity. We are kind of a stubborn little species,
Oh, you can say that again.
Yes. And so it hasn't been easy, and it's been, kind of wavering, going backwards a little bit, where we've had a lot more evil enter into the atmosphere, which has led to a lot of conflicts that have been very, 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 very serious around the world that are becoming, determinative. Of course, we also have the issues that will come from the climate and planetary change issues.
That's what, Marilynn, I'm really worried about that because, I talk about it a lot on my show, is I really think that they're not being honest with the people. I think it's a lot shorter time we have before these major effects with Antarctica, the melting of the ice, the sea level, maybe the stalling of the water coming from the equator, going up to Europe, keeping it from turning it into an ice age. I got the magnetic field is moving big time, fast. We're ready for a pole shift. I mean, I think our planet more than ever needs help right now, and I'm really, really concerned.
Well, I think that we have good reason to be concerned, and the climate change issue is an issue regardless, but then you have the influx of what about if there's any kind of nuclear detonations, which would impact climate change even more, and the habitability of the planet. And from what I have experienced with many of these races, especially the ones who are physical, third and fourth dimensional type beings, who, like the Greys and all these guys who are, mortal beings like we are, is that this is not the first time in apparently, universal history where planets have been destroyed by stupid activities of the inhabitants. You know what I mean? So, so one of the things that is of great concern is trying to prevent if you look at our world, we have so many ecologies. We have so many species of life, animals, plants. We have a very unusual planet in that regard. So there is a great deal of concern about this. That doesn't mean there aren't other planets out there with similar possibilities, but, I think we lose sight of the fact that the Earth is really quite special. When you look at places like Mars, which is primarily, desert, and you look at places like Venus, which is just gas, a lot of gas. Look at these other types of planetary systems and what are possible. a planet like Earth is something very special, and that's why we've got the attention of the Galactic Federation. It's because they want to do everything humanly possible to help us not to destroy it, you know? But it can happen, and it is of great concern. I do know that a lot of assistance has been coming in from the extraterrestrials, but also from higher realms as well, you know, the angelic, you know. So you have a lot of different sources that are trying to help stabilize the planet. But these are real serious problems, and we're not really going to know the outcome of them for another good, 10 to 15 years as to where we will stand. And but, the thing that each one of us can do is reaching out for the higher spiritual thrust. Every single soul who does this makes the potential of the planet rise. And so, we feel very powerless because, we are just one person. But every single one of us, when we reach for that, it's like taking the hand of the eternal, allowing ourselves to become a vessel for the cleansing of not only our souls, but also this planet, this world. There's going to be a lot of concern over the earth because of the fact that we have such a unique planet. There are so many different kinds of life that can exist on the surface of the earth. We have so many different kinds of life that can exist in the sea as well as on the land. We have deserts, mountain. We have, New Zealand is, like this amazing ecosystem, you know what I mean, with species that go back to the time of the dinosaurs and things like this. But we have all of these different types of ecosystems that support all of these different kinds of life. And when you think about that, it will help you to understand why we have the attention of many different species of extraterrestrial, because they all have different needs as well. And so they're looking for, what do we need to sustain our life on a world? We have information indicating that the Greys, destroyed their own planet in a war, which is what we are desperately concerned we might do here. And they're living on a planet that is way close to the sun, and they have a very short lifespan because of the radiation, 30 years tops, And so what they're looking for, like a lot of these others, is ecosystems that will work for their individual forms of life. And we've seen so many different kinds. People have reported reptilians, the praying mantis. You've heard about the ones that live underwater. We've seen and heard about different types of digestive systems and how they, how their hearts and lungs work and what kinds of things they need to actually sustain themselves in terms of, nutrition. And that's what we're looking at here. We have literally a gold mine in the earth, and we're destroying it, and that's very, very devastating to a much bigger picture, which involves the entire universal, the entire universal sphere of existence. And worlds like the Earth garner attention because they are in so much need of protection. And unfortunately, we as a species do not have the foresight like many of them might have about the serious consequences of the use of nuclear power. And we don't have the foresight about even the serious consequences of the abuse of the ecology. You know what I'm saying there?
Well, I can say this. You can't keep pumping the blood out of the earth and expect not having earth changes. What I mean, pumping oil, for example, and then after you drain the field, you start pumping water in, thinking, this will stabilize it. It doesn't stabilize it. A few years later, all of a sudden, you find big sinkholes developing everywhere. A lot of the stuff it's been going on. It's been all brought on by humans for the last 100 years. We have actually taken a beautiful planet in the last 100 years and have almost got it to the point where it's it's not going to support life probably another 100 years from now at the rate we're going.
Well, and that is a very scary prospect, but it is the prospect we're facing, and it shows us how important and how significant every one of our individual lives can be in terms of what we do choose to do in terms of protecting our planetary sphere. And it is very difficult because part of what happened over the last 100 years is, as we all know, we had an industrial revolution, and we had misunderstanding because of, lack of understanding of these bigger things. We have to look at how people were 100 years ago. They did not have the understanding that any of these things could actually do the amount of damage that they can. Now that we do know this, we have to change the way we're doing things because it's absolutely true. We can take advantage and take for granted what's been given to us and not even realize that we can go forward and possibly destroy it and lose it as a result. One of the things that I have found to be interesting is, seeing that there are some people that we hear about, not very often, but we hear about them, who are coming up with really, really revolutionary ways to, first of all, clean up polluted lakes. There's several people who've come up with really neat ideas to start dealing with the plastics in our oceans. And that's the kind of thing we want to really energize, because these are people that God is sending to Earth to give us some answers as to what can we do about the damage that's already done, which is going to have to be dealt with if we want to clean this up and give the Earth a chance to regenerate. We don't want the Earth to have to regenerate by having to expel the inhabitants. And that's basically what happened, with the last ice age. The asteroid hits, the dinosaurs all go extinct, and the Earth regenerates. But that's hopefully we don't want that to happen. We would like to avoid that if at all possible. So we want to give the Earth a chance to regenerate by working in cooperation with the process of regeneration rather than against it. And we do have a huge problem in front of us, because one of the things that I think is going to be the most difficult to overcome is the varying countries making individual decisions about what they are willing to do in climate change and cleaning up the planet.
Well, I gotta interject here something, okay? Japan right now, they're faced because of the reactor meltdown reactors meltdown, which is still going on. They have billions of gallons of wastewater that's highly radioactive. And they're very close to dumping it into the Pacific Ocean because they have nowhere else to put it. And as soon as they dump this into the Pacific Ocean, it's going to kill a lot of sea life. Right now in Washington State, off of California, off of Oregon, they're already finding fish that is radioactive from what's happened in Japan. Now, once this happens, it is going to do some massive damage to sea life. And that's the problem we're facing. Our technology is not where it should be. And all these things that is going on, I just can't see how we're going to recover from it. I can't. I really feel like our planet has been rebooted several times. I can't believe I
agree with you. I think it has.
I just can't believe that we're the only race it has ever been here. I have a feeling because the Sphinx itself, they came to conclusion, I've brought this up numerous times on our show here, that the Sphinx is way older than they ever thought. The wear marks on the back for years and years, they said, that was created from the sand blowing on it. Well, in the last few years, they came to conclusion, no, the Sphinx was under an ocean Well, if it was under the ocean, that puts it pre-man. So who created the Sphinx? Who created some of the stuff out there, the technology that's still remaining? I think a lot of this stuff is